Well, first of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Yeta Bunjaku. I'm the Vice President of Instructional Design and Accreditations at LEORON Institute. I'm joined by my colleague Zeqiri, who is our Director of Technical and AI Academy at LEORON. And we are very delighted to have you with us today. And we are looking forward to having a fruitful presentation and open discussion and conversation with all of you about AI and AI transformation in the region. Over the next 2 hours, we want to do something different from a typical AI webinar. We're not here to demo a chatbot or convince you that AI is important. I think we all know that already. What we want to do today instead is to give you a structured way to think about AI capability inside your own organizations, what it actually is, why most enterprises are stuck, and what it takes to move from just having awareness about AI to an actual measurable enterprise impact in your organizations. And before we start, though, a couple of housekeeping notes. So yes, the session is being recorded. You will receive the recording and slides afterwards. Please use the chat throughout the presentation. We will treat it as a live conversation. There will be a dedicated Q&A at the end, but feel free to drop questions or comments anytime, and we will get to them as much as time allows. Now, one small ritual before we start. In the chat, in one word, I would like for you to tell us where your organization is on its AI journey today. Are you exploring AI? Are you experimenting with AI in your organizations? Are you maybe scaling, or are you stuck? No wrong answers. This sets the temperature for the room as well as your focus on today's presentation. So just in one word, let us know. Are you exploring? Are you experimenting, scaling, or maybe you are stuck? Okay, just 10 seconds for this. That's very interesting and very usual. Most of you are still on exploring or on experimenting phase. I see some of you have mentioned that you are scaling. Adil, you mentioned that you're scaling, which is very interesting, and I would like to know more about that later on. Zayed, you also mentioned that you guys are scaling. But majority are exploring and are experimenting, which is very natural and very normal. So I really hope that today's session will help you understand how to move on from that exploring or experimenting phase to actually understanding how can I put AI into a structured, systemic, enterprise solution within my organization. And that is what today's presentation will be all about. Okay, let's get into it then. So we'll go through today's agenda. If we can see that slide, thank you, Art. So here is how the next 2 hours are structured. I will take the first 30 minutes, the welcome you just had. Then we will talk a bit about the state of AI adaptation across the region, specifically the GCC, and a short framing exercise that we will have towards the end. Around the 30-minute mark, I will hand over to Art, who will spend the next 90 minutes on the substance of this webinar. How to move AI potential to capability, the LEORON AI Capability Framework as well. We will talk about capability for business impact, And we will lastly close this session with the AI Academy portfolio at LEORON. And the last 10 minutes will be us closing it together with Q&As and concrete next steps for engaging with us in the future. A note on rhythm, we've built short audience activities into the session. We will have one called the Monday morning test. You will see it in about 20 minutes from now. These are deliberately short, but we want this to feel like a conversation. So we're looking forward to your engagement and feedback. Okay, we move on to the next slide. Why this webinar and why now? Now, let me name the tension that brought all of us here today, which is, now honestly, AI is the most discussed business topic, I think, of the decade. Every board meeting has it. Every vendor pitch that you receive probably starts with AI transformation. Every event, every conference mentions AI. But, and this is the uncomfortable part, the gap between AI conversation and actual AI value is widening. It's not closing. And there are some very interesting data that backs this up. There is a report from McKinsey State of Art, which finds that while around 80% of organizations that now use AI, only one small fraction of them, somewhere between 15 to 20%, I believe, see meaningful bottom line impact from AI transformations. There was another report from BCG's research that said literally the same. Roughly 80% of AI initiatives fail to deliver expected returns. Most organizations run a lot of pilots, run a lot of test tools, buy subscriptions from different kind of platforms, ChatGPT, Claude, Canva, but very few have actually scaled. So that's what we want you to walk away with today. And there are three things that we want you to remember. First, we want to provide a clear diagnostic for where your organization actually is on its AI journey, not where we want to be, but where you actually are. Second, we want to provide a structured framework for AI capability development within your organization. We call this 3 pillars within LEORON. We will focus on leadership, on workforce, and on functions. And we will spend significant time on each. And third, we want you to walk away with a concrete view of what LEORON can do to accelerate your transformation. And we will provide a clear menu of how we work and what it looks like to engage with us. And I really want you to hold us on these 3 commitments throughout the session. Now, we go to the next slide, which we talk a bit about LEORON and who we are. I'll just mention a few words for those that are new to LEORON and they don't know us. We are a leading corporate training and edtech company in the Middle East region, predominantly in GCC. And the numbers behind that statements are these, as you see on the screen. More than 50,000 learners pass through our programs every year. We deliver around 3,000 courses annually. We deliver them across 60 cities globally. More than 500 subject matter experts and trainers, the people who actually deliver the content, work with LEORON. And we are accredited by more than 50 international institutions and accreditations from all over the world. Now, when it comes to AI at LEORON, I want to show you the very top of our AI Academy and the executive curriculum. So you can see the caliber of partnerships we work with. Our executive AI portfolio is delivered through tier 1 partners and institutions. For example, we have an AI intelligence program from Said Business School at Oxford. We have AI for leaders from INSEAD University. There is AI strategies for executive leadership through Babson Executive Education. There are programs like AI at Work and applied AI programs for leaders, which are run through AI Search. There is the Certificate Professional in Managing AI, which comes from PMI. And AI Certificate in Finance, which is again from Said Oxford Business School, which is designed specifically for CFOs and finance leaderships. It's an amazing program. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this slide now, it's actually very simple. Every course we deliver leads to an internationally recognized credential. Now, when we work with you, your senior team is not getting just a certificate of attendance, but they will walk away with credentials from names like Oxford, INSEAD, PMI, and AI certs. We will come back to this portfolio at the end, but for now, just hold the picture. This is the executive layer of how we will build AI capabilities within your organization. Now, going to the next slide, a bit about our approach when we deliver AI capabilities for our clients, which is the spine of our approach. We start with AI awareness, we move to AI adaptation and AI impact, which is a structured capability journey. It's not just a course catalog or just training programs. Now, every company that is looking to move to an enterprise AI capability starts with awareness, right? We usually, when we work with our clients, we start with foundational AI literacy courses, which give us an understanding of where AI fits in your industry context, where are you with your AI plans when it comes to how aware your employees are and your people are. But this is where honestly most organizations start, but that's when they stop. What's very important is to move to stage 2, which is AI adaptation. Now, after we've trained your people in AI literacy, in AI usage, in understanding what's the strategy, what are the capabilities within your organization, we move with developing role-based pathways, which will turn the knowledge into applied use cases. Now, this is where we work with you to develop process automation, to develop function-specific tools for your organizations, etc. And this is where actually AI starts touching the actual work. And then what's very important is stage 3, which is the impact. And we work on capstone projects which deliver a measurable AI roadmap and business outcomes for your organization. And this is where you can stand in front of your board and in front of your management and show with numbers what actually changed. So awareness, adaptation, and impact. And each stage builds on the one before. And skipping a stage is the most common reason AI initiatives stall, actually, from the experience that we've seen with our clients. Organizations try to leap from awareness to impact without building the adaptation muscle, which is between these two, right? So I want you to hold this picture as well in your mind. And actually everything that Art will walk you through later is structured around this journey: awareness, adaptation, and actual impact. Now, when we run a structured capability program, which is those programs are typically 80 to 150 participants per intake, we do it in 3 concurrent tracks. Track 1 is executives. Your C-suite and directors are the ones that take part on this track. The core outcome is basically AI strategy and governance, and the modules cover enterprise transformation, basically. We talk a lot about governance, risk, and ethics, which are very important in AI transformations, but as well as, for example, investments, decisions, and leading AI-enabled organizations. So this is what the executive would cover. Now, track 2 is business leaders, for which personally I think is the most important track, which trains managers and function heads. Their core outcome is AI use case implementation, and they learn use case design, prioritization, process automation as well, and we train people in AI in operations, in HR, in finance, in marketing, etc. And track 3 is technical and specialists, your practitioners and your subject experts. Their core outcome is AI literacy and application. We also work with them on AI tools, different AI platforms, and different ecosystems. And we train them a lot on data fundamentals and governance, some implementation frameworks as well, and how to work effectively alongside AI systems. The things that makes this work is not the 3 tracks individually. It's actually what happens between these tracks. That's where we run cross-track capstone projects that I mentioned earlier. For example, the executives sponsor a real business problem. Now the business leaders shape the use case of that problem, and the specialists are the ones that build it. So basically, everyone graduates with skin on the same outcome. And this is what I mean by capability, which is a coordinated organizational plan that everyone takes part in. And now the next slide talks about functional and applied curriculum. And this is where AI starts touching the work, basically, function by function. And I'll just walk you through every function. There are around 12 that we have today covered at LEORON. We have AI-powered sales to marketing programs. We have AI-powered human resources courses. We also work with the finance people on analysis, forecasting, audits, controlled operations, supply chain. We also work with real estate professionals and data analysts, etc. So the pattern across all these 12 segments is the same. They are function specific, they're tool specific as well, because every function's tool might be different from the other, and they're outcome specific. But obviously, we talk a lot about generic AI literacy, which I believe is necessary for every function. You might have people who are just beginners in AI. So of course, it's important to cover the basics as well. But we dive deep into depth in functions itself, where the actual work happens. And finally, about this framework at LEORON, we work a lot with our clients on how to measure business impact and ROI, which is the final piece of the Academy story. And honestly, it's one of the most training providers skip part. We agree usually with the business leaders on 6 matrices. These are the matrix you will be asked about from your board and from your management. So I believe they're very important to be planned whenever you talk about AI implementation within your organizations. One, we do an AI use case implementation. 2 is productivity lift. We measure against a pre-academy baseline for each function. 3, we work with leadership capabilities. We run 360 for your leaders. 4, we work with organization-wide adaptations, and we track percentage of teams activities using AI tools versus what the baseline was. 5, we talk about cost savings. We identify cost savings activities. And 6 is we try to reach a target of greater than 80% of satisfaction from all the people who have been involved on the projects. Now, the reason we lead with measurement is very simple. You have to tell your board and your management what to change whenever you do a transformation. If you want your plans or your budget to continue to be approved, you really have to provide evidence to your management, and that's what we basically help you with. Now, this is all easier said than done. So I want the next part of the presentation to talk about the AI adaptation and what it actually takes for us to move from basic to an enterprise AI organization. And this is where I want to spend a little more time on what is actually happening across the region, what the pattern looks like, and why most organizations are not getting the impact that they expected. Now, the next slide is about the AI adaptation paradox, which is abundance and scarcity. Now, what we've seen across the region when we're working with our clients, particularly in GCC, there is a consistent pattern. There's a large number of activity, a large number of initiatives, investments. However, there's lack of actual impact. On the abundance side, as we said earlier, every meeting agenda has AI as a talking point. Every vendor that comes to you has a pitch about AI. Every town hall, I think, talks about ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. We've seen so many functions in companies that use pilots, AI tools. Your marketing team, for example, maybe has a content tool with AI. Finance probably might have some forecasting experiments with Claude. IT for sure has a Copilot rollout, right? And HR is maybe testing some screening tools, but none of them are working together with each other. So that's where we want to focus on today. On the lacking side, there are significant investments in tools, as I said, in platforms and licenses, but comparing to the investment, there is little carryover to experience transformation. And the paradox is not that organizations are not trying, we're all trying very hard. The paradox is that trying is not converting. And the reason is that activity is being mistaken by capability, honestly. We test ChatGPT, we use it on a daily basis. We probably got new subscriptions with Claude, all of us, and we're playing around with it every day, which is great. However, having a subscription is not a capability. A trained AI champion within your organizations is also not a capability. Capability is what happens when the pilot ends, for example, or the experiment ends. What happens when the license needs to be renewed? What happens when that AI champion in your organization leaves the job? They quit. What happens with that role? So what is your long-term plan for AI implementation? And this is the gap we built with our framework and the gap that we want to close. And in the next few slides, I want to be specific about where the gap actually is, because once you name it, then obviously you can fix it. Now, I want to talk about where organizations are getting it wrong. 4 gaps show up in nearly every stalled AI transformation that we witness, especially in the last 2 years. We see them in every diagnosis we run, and honestly, they are all remarkably consistent. Gap 1, there is limited workforce readiness. Employees know that AI exists. As we said, most have tried ChatGPT, now Claude, but they cannot apply it in their actual work context. They use it for personal reasons on the side. They close the tab and they go back to where they have always been. Gap 2, fragmented adaptation. AI shows up in marketing, as I said, in IT, in finance, but never as an enterprise capability. We mentioned earlier that each function might have their own tools and approaches, right? But the problem is that nothing is connecting them. Gap 3 then leads me to insufficient strategic alignment. We see a lot of AI initiatives which are disconnected from business priorities, from companies' KPIs, and from growth strategies. And then that leads me to gap 4, which is lack of governance and risk, ethics, bias, data privacy. All these regulatory compliances should be thought and planned very carefully and well. And here is the line I want you to write down. And it is the thesis, honestly, of this whole segment. Every one of these gaps is a capability gap. It's not a technology gap. There is a technology that exists for all of them. And it is easily available. So we need to build the capabilities to properly use it and make the best of it. Now that will lead me to the cost of stalled adaptation. And what does it cost to stall? What we don't, first, missed efficiency it's a critical one. AI delivers productivity gains. Every quarter you delay, the gap between you and your faster moving peers widens. Let's say there is a team that's 12 months ahead on AI capabilities from you. So that team is not 12% better than you. It's actually 2 or 3 times more efficient because of how AI is evolving, right? Second, lost differentiation. When competitors scale AI, they basically redefine the basis of competition in your industry. What can happen is that, for example, customers' expectations can change. Pricing benchmarks can also change. Service level expectations as well. So by the time you catch up, the standard has moved very fast. And third is workforce skepticism, which honestly it happened also with me from my experience. Each failed initiative makes the next one harder, which is obviously very normal. And at some point, if you don't see a purpose or a result, the organization grows tired of it. So that's also a very normal behavior that happens to people. Now, how do we pivot from tools to capability? So we really want to understand what is the pivot and how can we change this behavior. So on the left, you see the model that is failing. That model has isolated training initiatives, has vendor experiments here and there, that has one-off course consumptions, function by function pilots, as we mentioned earlier. But on the right, the model that works, that has systematic capability development, that has strategic role-based pathways, and these are all embedded in business processes, in enterprise-wide integrations. And these are all providing measurable, sustainable impact, of course. And you notice the difference. The left side is event-based. You do a thing, it ends, and you measure attendance. But the right side is a system-based. So you build capabilities, it stays, and then you measure outcome. So the pivot basically is conceptual, honestly, before it's operational. You cannot make the transition while you're still procuring AI as a series of isolated initiatives. You have to decide basically, and this decision comes at the leadership level, that decision is AI going to be governed as an enterprise capability within the organization, or is it going to be covered individually from person to person? And this is the strategic conversation we want to have with you today. And that is the bridge into the activity that I want to have with you now. And that activity is called the Monday morning test, which is on the next slide. Now, quick interactive moment, just 90 seconds. We call this the Monday morning test, and we use it as a basic and fun diagnostics. And here is the scenario. Imagine an AI agent shows up at your organization next Monday. Same as any new hire or new colleague, it has a badge, it has an inbox, and it has access to the shared drive and all the other resources in your company. It's brilliant. It can read thousands of pages in a minute. It can draft, summarize, analyze, and actually reason, be at the level of a very senior professional in your industry. So basically, by any technical measure, it's more capable than most of your team. But, and this is the test, it has zero context about your business, zero context about your customers, about how decisions are made in your organization, and who are you as a company in the region, etc. So in the next slide, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, 1-word answer for all 3 questions, and drop them in the chat, please. So these are the 3 questions. Question 1, where do you sit it? Which function? Which team? Reporting to who? For example, let's say it sits in marketing in the social media team and reports to the head of marketing. Question 2, who briefs it? Who in your organization is responsible for teaching this AI agent about your business, about your customer, about your context? Is it maybe the head of marketing? Is it the social media marketing maybe? Or the sales team? You would like the sales team to get involved. And question 3, who governs it? Who decides what is it allowed to do and what is not allowed to do? For example, you're not allowed to use data from 2024. You can just use data from last year and this year. You should only use customer information coming from specific sources, for example, etc. So 3 questions. Where do you sit at which function? Who briefs it about your company? And who governs it? So I will give you 90 seconds. Write your answers on the chat and we'll take it from there. Okay, perfect. We got some interesting answers. We have some people who wrote things like in operations and logistics, and process experts would feed them, and legal and IT would govern them. That's very interesting, and I will stick with this because that's a very important point. And I'm assuming for a lot of you, those 3 questions were harder than they sounded, right? And that is the diagnostics, actually. Here's the line I want you to understand. If you cannot answer where that AI agent sits in your organization, who briefs it, and who governs it, you do not have an AI strategy yet. You just have an AI subscription. A subscription is something you pay for. A strategy is something you built. And the rest of this webinar actually will tell you about how to build that strategy. And notice another important thing. When we talk about enterprise, let's say this AI agent will work with operations and logistics, and the people who will feed the AI agent are process experts, right? But the people who will govern it and will tell the AI agent what to do and what not to do are legal and IT. This tells you the need for a close collaboration between teams and departments. That means that you have two functions, 2 or 3 departments who will work together to build this AI agent. Both your strategy, that means that both your strategies will align, your plans will align, your success and your growth as well. So this is what enterprise basically is. When different departments come together and use one AI agent, one AI tool for their goals, which ultimately lead to what the strategy of the company is. We've had some other similar cases like that. For example, Adil said core functions, commercials, where money comes. Absolutely, I agree with you, Adil. Sales would feed it, yes. And then who governs it? Internal policy through audit, for example. So you see, you have different departments who will work together to build and to prompt this AI agent. And I saw a lot of other different responses that are very similar to this nature. So for the next 90 minutes, I want you to keep one specific AI agent in mind. Picture it. You can even give it a name, give it a role. It can be an analyst, a coordinator, maybe an advisor, and give it a purpose. So this is your lens for the rest of the session. Everything Art says, so every framework that we will show to you, every tool or every architecture pattern, filter it through that AI agent. Basically filter it through these questions. How can this agent implement what we are discussing today? What would it take to actually teach that AI agent? And what investment does it need to be effectively hired into your organization? And these are the questions your AI strategy needs to basically answer. And once you have these questions, that you are on the right track to start planning an enterprise solution within your organization. Now, before I hand to Art, there are 4 ideas that I want to take with you from this short presentation. 4 simple things that I hope you can remember from the discussion so far. Idea 1, having AI tools is not the same as being good in AI. Most organizations have adopted AI tools. Few have actually built the capability to use them well. Tools are the easy part, as we said, but capability building throughout the company is the hard part. Idea 2, AI needs people as much as people need AI. Like this Monday morning test that we just did, even the smartest AI agent is lost without human context or human judgment or guidance. Idea 3, leaders, teams, and every function must learn together. If only one group builds AI skills, the rest become bottlenecks. So the whole organization needs to move together or nobody does. And idea 4, and the last one, measure what matters and put guardrails around everything. A real matrix, honestly, and disciplined governance separate AI experiments from AI that scales. So without matrix, you cannot tell what worked, basically. So that brings us to the handover for Art. We have established what AI capability is and why it matters. And the next 19 minutes, we are about to tell you how to build it. Art will walk you through 3 parts, which is the next slide. Part A is the tools. Art will talk about what actually is available, what each one is good at, each tool is good at, how to choose without failing, without overinvestment. And this is where we will go deep into ChatGPT, into Claude, in Gemini, Copilot, and the open source landscape. Part B, Art will talk about the capability. There are 3 pillars there, as we mentioned earlier: leadership, functions, and workforce. What's good, and what each level of the organization looks like when it comes to AI implementation for them. And part 3 is the practice. We'll talk about best practices, patterns, governance maturity as well, and we'll provide you a 90-day plan so you can take that plan to your executive team, hopefully maybe next Monday morning. So this is the practical half of the webinar from here on. So every slide is something you can act on, basically. And I will leave that to Art. Thank you very much, Art. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yeta, for this detailed understanding of AI and the capability of AI. Very huge shoes to fill based on what you presented so far. So trying to fill the gaps now with the tools and with the different processes and how to implement the tools. So everyone, as Ms. Yeta said, we have three main pillars that we need to take into consideration, and that is the tools, the capability, and the practice. When we are discussing about AI, it is extremely important to understand that if we don't have the necessary tools or the necessary, let's say, equipment for us to do the job, of course, that would be prone to errors. However, even if we have the best tools possible in the world, if we don't know how to use those tools and where to use them, both horizontally and in the vertical aspect, then of course that is going to be prone to failure. As we are discussing nowadays with every strategy, every organization that is creating its 2026 and onward strategy is focusing on AI. But it comes from leadership side. If you do not have the necessary understanding of the capabilities of AI from the leadership aspect, from when the strategy is created, then of course, even the best tools would be bound to failure. So let's dive a bit more deeper on the tools, the main tools that are out there at the moment, how they can be used both horizontally and vertically. And based on that, we will discuss in details about the right tools for the right job ahead. So when we are discussing about AI and when we are discussing about enhancing our workflow, enhancing our productivity, and of course, enhancing all the different processes through AI and through the modern work environment, we need to understand three main aspects or three things. The first one is that the model matters less than the system around it. That is, in other words, that a well-designed workflow that routes queries, pulls information from the knowledge base and escalates that to the humans at the right time, it is always much better than a single, let's say, chatbot or a single copilot that we are creating for everyday workflow. Because through the training of that specific agent, through that specific AI tool that we are going to use, we will understand and we will enhance and extract the best out of that AI tool for our productivity. And that is creating the mundane tasks, as well as making sure to escalate when there is a need for escalation. Furthermore, there is no single winner. There are multiple tools for different jobs that would lead to the end goal, which is completing a set of activities or enhancing our organization through AI productivity. In 2026, we have seen a huge boom of different tools. We have tools now for only presentation. We have tools for creating a specific research paper. We have tools that are related to specific, let's say, helping us with mundane tasks, etc., etc., etc. But what would happen if we choose some that are not the correct? This is the second pillar, making sure that there is not a single winner, but multiple different that need to work together to give us that final output. And the third one, which is very important in today's environment, and sometimes the organizations even fail to take into account as much as possible, that is capability outliving tools. If we have the capable workforce, if we have that buy-in and that training that is related to the tools and the knowledge to operate different tools, no matter what happens and how enhanced or how advanced the tools would be in the ecosystem that is related to AI and to different tools, our team would be able to deploy and manage those tools. So always make sure to understand that the model is number one. If you have good model, doesn't matter that much about the system. The second thing is that there is not only one tool that is going to be a jack of all trades, one tool fixing everything. We need to see multiple different tools and how they can collaborate with each other. And the third one is, of course, capability outliving any specific tool that is out there. So capable workforce managing different tools. Now we will discuss in more details about some of the best tools that are out there at the moment and that can be used either for day-to-day tasks or for strategic aspects. We'll start with the most widely known one, the most widely used one, and the tool that kickstarted everything, and that is ChatGPT. At the moment, we have GPT 5.4 with 5.5 being launched as we speak. It is a all-rounder. It can be used on multiple aspects, and that is its best or its biggest strengths, but it's also its biggest weakness. A jack of all trades is a master of none. As the saying goes, the same goes with AI that is developed by OpenAI, and that is the ChatGPT. The best fit for utilizing ChatGPT is for general productivity. However, since we are moving on from the most, let's say, versatile all-rounder tools to the ones that are more, let's say, niche and tackling specific problems, we have the absolute winner when it comes to AI, and that is Claude Opus 4.7 that is developed by Anthropic. It's the best tool out there at the moment that you can pay a subscription for when it comes to writing, and I'm saying about technical writing. Furthermore, about coding, long document reasoning, analyzing different tenders and RFPs, and making sure that you link them to your capability, and you, of course, respond to those tenders and RFP, which are the blood of the organization and of the revenue generated by different organizations. It lacks that it has a smaller integration ecosystem than the other tools out there. And of course, as I said, with the proper training, it can be like your online tendering department or online tendering and procurement check, which will analyze all the vendors. It will make sure to analyze all the different requirements from the RFPs and respond to those as well. The third model is the Gemini 3.1 that is created by Google. It's multimodal and it's best for very long context outputs. When it comes to what it lacks on being less mature when it comes to code editing, but it's good for document analysis and workspace usage. Then we have the one that majority of us use either on daily basis, or we have that button there because we use the Microsoft ecosystem and we need just our IT department to enable it for us to use it every day on every tool that we use, either for creating PowerPoint, Word, Excel, etc., etc. That is the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Copilot is a very interesting tool because it is created not that much for reasoning, but mostly for being our personal assistant. That's why its usage outside of the MS suite, it's very limited, and that is its main downfall, as it's created to operate internally in the Microsoft ecosystem. Now, where Microsoft 365 Copilot excels mainly is when it comes to being linked to our internal information that is part of SharePoint, because 95% of organizations have already adapted
Microsoft as the go-to platform for day-to-day communication, emailing, and as well as spreadsheet management and document management. So this would be a small addition that would be in that secure ecosystem with 99.99% guarantee uptime by Microsoft, and basically one of the most secure systems in the world. Then we have Grok 4, which is data analytics, a tool that would be used for data analytics, and it matches with real-time data and checking the web and updating itself with real-time events. It lacks on enterprise governance. This is mainly because it has lack of, not lack, but lower control level than the others, and more prone to data leak, but it's best fit for real-time information. And last but not least, we have the Perplexity, which is a citation-based, research-based, multi-purpose tool that is used for research and development, R&D departments, as well as for fact-checking when it comes to different types of documents and publications. Now, these are enterprise-wise models that we would use when it comes to different types of AI tools out there. However, now let's see a bit more about our verticals. Which tool would be more specific when it comes to vertical usage, and how this vertical usage can impact our organization? So we have Gamma as our, let's say, leader when it comes to different usages in creating presentations. It replaces, based on estimations, it replaces around 70% of the job that a low to mid-level designer would do when it comes to presentation, because it creates a presentation starting from zero. It gives you a specific type of template for design that you would use, and you can reuse that type of design, as well as besides PowerPoint presentations, it can also create websites, and it can also help you in create social media posts, Word documents, PDFs, etc., etc. Where Gamma lacks, coding. If you were to use Gamma, use it for presentation. Then we have the GitHub Copilot, which is all about the developers that are part of this webinar today. It is your personal assistant that helps you in coding. At the moment, GitHub Copilot is the industry standard for engineering teams, which helps in coding and debugging of different codes, either for backend or frontend, through the implementation of Cloud Opus. Then we have, of course, another tool which is part of the vertical, and that is the Cursor. That is a full IDE agent that Anthropic is used at the moment for internal usage and for development of their AI. It is most widely used in IT companies for project-wide refactors and also for feature work. Then we have the fourth tool, which is the Perplexity for research, citations, and research and development. After that, we have the Notebook LM, which is Google's source-grounded reasoning tool. You upload your documents, it analyzes them, and based on that, it gives you a specific information about the document, as well as citations where possible. Then we have Midjourney or DALL-E, which is for image generating. It gives a very good type of insight into what are the capabilities of modern AI tools on creating different images. It is best for commercial use based on the art that is created and the IP rights. Before we continue, I would like to see just the chat box, and I see that we have here Manus that is asked by Osama, and we have Adam that is related. Asking about Kimi. So when it comes to Manus, Osama, we have Manus that is, I would say, in a similar approach to GitHub Copilot. It is mainly used for building apps and websites for without having any code. Fun fact about Manus, and this is also for Kimi because Kimi is also Adam used for coding mainly, but it has also retrieval augmented generation. In a majority of universities, Manus, Kimi, Blackbox as well, and have started to be banned or limited in a specific possibility because of just giving an idea and creating a full code for you and even debugging. They are both very good tools when it comes to coding, but not that good when it comes to creating presentations or when it comes to using them for everyday usage, as Ms. Yeta said, to have your personal copilot that would help you in each single day or each single activity that you'd had in your organization. If you have a department that is let's say a company that is in IT and you have a department that is working solely on backend, Manus, Kimi, GitHub Copilot, and Blackbox are the ones to go. But if you are in different industries and you are not that much in coding, I think that it's going to be most a waste of resources in Manus, Kimi, and GitHub Copilot, because in the end of the day, you will pay a lot. We know that Manus as well as Kimi are very expensive, especially Manus, but in the end, you will not receive the output as you would have with other tools that are both horizontal and from vertical aspects. That's why we have classified as the top tools to use are the ones that are being shown here, the top 6, and the top all-rounder and winner. Not just a versatile all-rounder, I would say, is Claude Opus, because it's being integrated on more platforms than the other ones. So we have the right tool for the right job. Let's say you have different tasks for the day, different departments that are working with each other. And what type of tool would you use, and what type of alternative would you use for those? So if you were to have a job that is to draft and refine long form writing, of course, Claude is the one to go. That is your pocket RFQ and RFI department. Think of contracting department in your pocket or in your desktop. That's what Claude will do. You would have all the necessary information from the specific documents that are from the RFPs. And this is the core driver for all organizations in the world generating revenue. And you would be able to respond to all of those internally with your templates, with your capabilities, as long as if you train Claude correctly. We'll talk later on how you can train and how important is prompt engineering. And this is where, if you train your AI correctly, it's going to be the most powerful tool you have. Now, if you are unable to use Claude for XYZ reasons, we have GPT-5 that would help you in reasoning. As we said, GPT-5 is a versatile all-rounder, but still my first choice, optimal choice, drafting, refining long documents, responding to RFPs, go with Claude. No need to think twice. Day-to-day productivity inside the office. Microsoft 365 Copilot. Before a week or so, we were discussing with Yeta about Copilot and its main, let's say, capabilities. And I was showing to her also that I have created an agent on Copilot that is related to hierarchy within the organization. And this is a Copilot which I usually use when I'm teaching and I'm not able to respond immediately to all the emails. So this Copilot which I have created has of course, I have fed it with hierarchy of the organization as well as important cases or urgent cases within the organizations that usually are being sent towards my way or my department. And now my Copilot, the moment I launch it, while I'm teaching or I'm delivering a training, it reads all my unread emails, it flags them. If it's something urgent that needs to be done today, flags them with red. If it's from VP, director, or above, it flags it with red. If it's something that can wait for 2-3 days, flags it with yellow. If it's something that doesn't need escalation, I can forward it to the team. Of course, it gives it a green color. And based on that, it also helps me with setting up meetings and providing me with meeting notes based on what myself and my friend, which I called Nova, my Copilot friend, have worked on together. Of course, if you cannot or your organization does not support Microsoft 365 Copilot, we go to our famous and favorite all-rounder, that is the GPT-5. Then we have a task which is working with very large documents. Gemini 3.1 Pro is the leader when it comes to these large documents, but it's not what you think of. Why? It's not only about the capabilities, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the tokens and the cost. We will discuss in the next slide on how it's very important to have this type of the AI deployed with a specific cost in mind. We will discuss how cost also surprises CFOs most of the time, and instead of going into the right direction or having positive impact, you have increased costs which are unplanned. The alternative for this is Claude, and that could help you with differentiating cost using different models that would lower the cost. Coding and engineering work, we have Claude Code and Cursor. As alternative, we have the GitHub Copilot. And these are the main leaders. After that, we have research with verifiable citations. This is Perplexity. That is the leader on this. And Notebook LM as it's going to be as the alternative usage for all of this. After that, we have for quick, accurate, factual questions, Grok and Perplexity, which would do the job. That would help us with giving us all the necessary answers in a quick and structured way. Now, then we have the client-ready slide drafts. Gamma, it is going to be the leader. I would say that Gamma, with just one prompt, would give all the necessary information. And Copilot on the other side, if Gamma is not available. After that, we have image and concept generation, Midjourney, and also DALL-E in GPT-5 as our all-rounder. So before we move on to the next slide, let me just check the chat box. I saw that there are some questions and discussions. And okay, can I please get a copy of the training pack? Yes, I see Miss Yeta also responded, Naif. Most definitely, yes, you will. Okay, perfect. So let's move on to the next part. We talked about the ones that are paid. You pay, you get a subscription, that's it. But what about you guys that want to develop something internally? Sometimes you have also AI tools that need to develop internally, either based on the sensitivity of information, either based on the preferences of your IT department and your organization, etc., etc., etc. So when would you choose for this open source software that you would be able to fully tailor and deploy it internally, not just to pay for subscription? First of all, and very important, it's about data. Whenever I teach, especially when I teach AI and data analytics, I tell to my delegates that data is the modern oil or the modern gold. Who controls data controls the world. If you are part of an organization that has highly sensitive data that go under the EU GDPR Act of Privacy, under the California Act of Privacy as well, or if now with the Saudi Act of Privacy, you would think twice about sharing your information outside, especially if you have sensitive personal information. Let's say, for example, medical records or governmental information. That's one of the key triggers when you would switch from a subscription to a in-house built solution with an open source model. Second one, cost. If you were to go with cost and deploying it cross-organization wide, then you do an analysis on how much it would cost for tokens inside your organization. If you have 500, 600 people, it would not make sense for you to pay tokens for all. You will be forced to have these types of open source models that would be deployed internally. Just as an example, if you see nowadays in US, majority of the organization I'm talking about the small organizations, the startups, they have started to utilize AI in everything they did. However, with the utilization of AI and the subscription models that they have, it started to be very expensive. So it's cheaper to hire junior developers for the mundane basic tasks rather than to use the tokens that are purchased from that startup, which would use them for high-end work internally at their organization for products and research and development. Third one, and very important, customization. If you would like to fine-tune or you would like to create a specific model for proprietary data within your organization. And of course, vendor independence and regulated environments. If you would like to be independent from the vendors which are offering you what they are offering, and you are part of those sectors that are extremely regulated, such as public, defense, healthcare, etc., then don't even think of purchasing tokens. It's better to invest in your closed system and have everything internally than to even think about risking. So far, when it comes to risk, and this is very important, Copilot has proven to be the most, let's say, secure and the least prone to risks. Why we say that? Because Copilot is part of Microsoft. More than 90% of the organizations in the world are utilizing Microsoft and Microsoft services. So far, you can even count in one hand with the fingers how many data leaks you had from Microsoft. You have a 99.99% guarantee of runtime and basically close to impossible of hacking and of data leak. That's why Copilot is the closest it gets to closed system possible. The open source models that are the leaders at the moment are the Llama 4 Maverick, which is deployable on enterprise hardware. Then you have the DeepSeek coming from China. It matches commercial models with 10 up to 50 times lower inference cost. You have the Queen 3 multilingual performance, and you have the Mistral Large 2, which is a mature European option with strong commercial licensing terms, but when it comes to deployment, it still lags behind. Sorry. So, when we are discussing about a model, what is the anatomy and what are the key aspects you need to think of any model that you will be deploying? There are 5 main things that you need to think of when you are deploying a specific model. First are the parameters. That is, what a model knows, what can a model do, and what is the main function of that model. Then the second is the tokens. You pay, but the question is what you actually pay for. So models read and write in tokens, not in words. So in other words, that means that one token, usually between different models, this is the estimation, it is equal to around 4 English characters, or 0.75% of a word. So think twice before purchasing tokens, because it's not actually the tasks that you are purchasing, but you are purchasing the words within that task. Then you have the context window. As we know, when it comes to prompting, there is zero-shot prompting, and of course there is one-shot or first-shot prompting. That is part of how you communicate or how you write different types of prompts with your AI chatbot or with your LLM. So when it comes to prompting, make sure to understand your purchase, how much you can prompt, how much words or how much you can request in terms of documents from that specific type of tool that you are using. Then, of course, modalities. If you are to deploy or to use a specific model within your organization, you need to understand also the limitations, what it can read and what it cannot read. For example, how it can translate image into text, or how it can translate an Excel table into text, or how it can understand a voice note or a video, or a document, or the headers within the documents, etc., etc., etc. And of course, we have inference versus training. That is, of course, where the cost goes. Training is one time, expensive, and the main problem of the vendor. So you need to make sure that you, whenever you are trying a model within your organization, you need to minimize unnecessary inference, to minimize unnecessary usage of that specific model in order for you to save costs. I saw that there is a question in the chat box. Thank you so much for being active, guys. Okay, so we have Mr. Trott that says, what if the chat stops and asks to purchase tokens or wait until 1 a.m., for example? What do you do in that case? Trott, honestly, depends on the activity and on the deadline that I have. If there is something that is deadline and that has a deadline and it passes before the 1 a.m. example that you gave, of course I will purchase more tokens. If it's something that it can wait, I can wait as well. But here it comes also the part that we are discussing from the beginning. Planning, understanding your models, understanding your parameters. Now I will take out the pen. Understanding what your model knows and how it uses these tokens. This is called a pre-planning thread for your tools and your models. If you know that you'll have heavy work, that you'll need a lot of context, that you will need to have a lot of document scanning, you plan ahead this part and you purchase tokens when it or you discuss with your sales point of contact in order to purchase tokens in a corporate rate if possible, in order for you to lower costs. Everything goes to planning, everything goes to understanding your tools. If you know that you need to work with a lot of tokens, you plan ahead, you purchase more thread, or if it's something that cannot wait, you just purchase them and continue your work. Okay.
Art, if I can
Yes.
add here or maybe ask a question, for example,
Sure.
in Claude, I believe if you use Opus 4.7, the chances that you purchasing tokens are less.
Okay, thank you for your question, Yeta. So Opus 4.7 is the most advanced tool that Claude has internally, and that uses the most tokens for a specific activity. For example, here Yeta. Just let me close a window. For example, we say this part. Roughly, one token is equal to, let's say, 4 English characters for deploying something, or 0.75% of the word. Now, if you use Claude, let's say 4.7, sorry, my writing, I'm not good at just writing. If you use Claude 4.7, you will use more of those tokens. It's not going to be 1 equal to 4 English characters. It's going to be 1 equal to 1 or 2 equal to 1. Depends on the Claude internal policies for 4.7, 4.6, 4.5, etc. Does that answer your question, Yeta?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I believe I can continue. So let's continue now to understand when would we use assistance, when would we use Copilot, when would we use a workflow, and when would we use an agent. So I would say that the assistant is a chat interface, a chat box, usually marketing department that would use it. The user asks, the model answers, no one term at a time, no memory. That's it, basic. This is ChatGPT, this is Claude, this is Gemini. However, if you move from a basic assistant to a Copilot system, this is a medium cost, but it's going to be also with a bigger governance weight. Here you will have tools that would be embedded inside existing tools such as Word, Excel, CRMs, ID, etc., etc., etc. And it suggests drafts, as I said in the beginning. It reads my emails, it marks them, it tells me what I should do and when I should do it, and when I should meet someone. And then I have the third one, which is the workflow. This is predetermined sequence of AI calls glued together, such as when we discussed in the beginning. If everything goes well, you have 0 escalations. However, if everything starts to go, I would say, south in a way, then you would start to have escalations. If the parameters start to not match with what we've trained the AI, or if something else would happen. And then we have, of course, the agent, which is AI decides which tools to call in what order until a goal is reached. Basically, this is the official definition of agent. We use the term agent a lot of times, but most of the time there is misconception of what really is an agent, what really is a workflow, what really is a copilot, and what really is an assistant. Agents that we have at the moment that we can purchase tokens for are, of course, Claude with computer usage or the desktop Claude. We have the Devin and AutoGPT class. The cost is very high, and of course, the autonomy is very high. That's why you need to make sure you oversee every activity or every step of the way. If you've seen Claude, when you are working on desktop and you ask for reasoning, you have a small arrow that you can click to see each process, what's it doing. Sometimes it's difficult to understand because it's Python and other programming languages, but still, if you are a bit into Python, you can most definitely understand in details. Okay, so what is the true cost of enterprise AI? Some basic numbers for you to understand better the true cost. If you have a payment of $20 to $30 per month, you have 5,000 employees, that is $1.8 million per year, only for proceeds, only for specific licensing. So now you do the math. for these 5,000 employees. Should I go with of the open source, or should I continue paying? This is why I said that in the end of the day, organizations have deployed AI, especially startups, but now they see that the limitation is in terms of payment. So it's better to hire juniors in coding, that's what they are doing in US, for the mundane tasks, rather than paying this 1.8 to become to 2, 3, 4 million, etc., etc. Then we have, of course, the token-based API spend, which is for a mid-sized, let's say, working environment from 50K up to maybe $300,000 or $400,000 per year. Then, of course, we have the infrastructure and hosting, which is vector databases, embedding services, API gateways, etc., etc., that cost around 30 to 50% of the model cost. That is 30 to 40% on top of API spend. And capability and governance, programs, cohorts, policy work, audits, change management. The line item most often is missing, so you need to plan also additional 5 to 15% when it comes to total AI program budget. This is something that I use when it comes to AI deployment, and this is something that we usually use when we are deploying AI, and that is for every $1 that we spend on AI tools, you need also to plan for extra 50 cents on capability and governance. If you don't plan this correctly, then your CFO will have a nightmare scenario when it comes to planning and budgeting, as well as to the return on investment. If you manage to flip, let's say for every $1 you spend less than 50 cents, basically you are earning money rather than just spending it on X, Y, Z types of tools without proper usage of the same. Now, when it comes, we are discussing about costs, we are discussing about agents, we are discussing about anatomy of models, but where do they really run? That is important. We have in our attendance today governance professionals that this is their biggest, let's say, headache at the moment. Is the data safe? Where it's running? Is it migrating to a safe spot, etc.? I said in the beginning, data, modern oil. Data, modern gold. Whoever controls the data controls the modern businesses. That's why it's extremely important for you as professionals to understand in details where your data is running at the moment. So first is the software as a service or the public APIs, where the vendor hosts the model. You call an API, is the fastest to start, and it's the default to go. For example, ChatGPT, Cloud.ai, Gemini, etc. But the risk here, this one, data, it leaves your perimeter. Is it okay for you to risk it for your data to leave your organization? Low setup, low control in terms of costs and control. Then we have the single tenant cloud. That is very important. Vendor models that are deployed in a dedicated instance for the organization, such as Azure, OpenAI, Amazon Web Service, Bedrock Private, etc., where data stays in your cloud region. The cost is medium, the control is medium. And then you have the self-hosted, which we said nothing leaves, everything stays internally. The cost is very high, the control is maximum. You know the in and out of your data. And of course, you have the hybrid approach, as we have with cloud services nowadays and cold storage of information, which you have mature enterprises that are doing, and that is the cost is high, but the control is calibrated for your data and your organization. Okay, so what are the risks? Let's say for the productivity suite, we have the Copilot, the Google Workspace. The risk is data leakage between personal and corporate accounts. Sometimes it happened to all of us to use our work laptop to log into our personal Gmail, let's say. This is one type of risk for data leakage. Then you have the systems of record such as ERP, HRS, finance platforms, etc., etc., etc. That the risk is the regulated data to be exposed. Then we have the SharePoint and the file shares and the intranet with risk of sensitive documents that could accidentally be retrievable outside. Of course, we have the custom applications which would face backdoors if there is not rigorous bug testing and penetration testing for our apps. And then we have the identity and access, which gives us over-permissioned agents that are accessing very sensitive systems within the organization. And of course, the 5 stages where you get stuck most as organization. Ms. Yeta mentioned in the beginning that when you are trying to deploy something, you need to understand it, deploy it, and scale it. But what are the main 5 pillars to do that? The first pillar is about exploring, where you have different types of use cases. You identify the use cases, you identify the tools, and you start with prototyping. If you don't do this stage, or if you skip this stage, and if you go to a tool, you'll have problems along the way because you'll not understand the limitation in details. Then you have the prototyping, just quick flow of output, a minimum viable product or MVP that would help in AI. Then you'll have the pilot, which is real users, real data, real testing. Once it's approved, you go to scaling and sustainability for your AI models. What is extremely important for all of you as leaders to understand is that 70% of enterprises and 70% of AI pilots fail to reach stage 4. Always have a problem here where the bottleneck comes. It's about process discipline, not about technology. You skip this, you go directly to prototyping and to pilot, you will face here a border. You cannot go to scaling because you have not explored in details what's going on with different use cases and different applications of your AI. So always, even though some tasks might be mundane, always make sure to give proper time for exploring, research, and then prototyping and piloting and scaling. Okay, so when we are discussing about LMOps, we need to understand that there are 6 main operational disciplines which are there. However, okay, so we have a question. I will just go back to Mohammed and discuss. Let me just open the question. What is the ideal time frame for each stage? So Mohammed, when it comes to the ideal time frame, it all depends on your organization, on your capability within your organization, and the budget. The more money there is for investing in AI tools and deploying the same, and the more the more capability there is from the IT department, the time frame would be less for each. However, if I were to put a lot of time into this, or if I were to divide my time, I would put where it comes to exploring around 40%, because you have people that you have different types of models that you need to explore, so 40% on that, and then I would divide around, let's say, 35% on prototyping and piloting, and the rest on sustainability. This is where, when we are discussing about sustainability, we are discussing about training, making sure that you train your people, not only you train your model. Make sure that you spend the budget to train your people. The more trained your employees or your departments would be on using what you have deployed, the easier it is going to be to sustain that. Because let's say you have explored, you have done a good prototype, a good pilot, you have launched it. If you have not trained the people properly to use that tool, it's going to be a failure, even though it's the best tool that could be developed for your organization. Why? Because your key stakeholder, as a professional, Mohammed, that is deploying AI, your key stakeholder is the end user, your internal departments. If you don't train people, first of all, on AI mindset, then on AI tools, then on deploying different tools, both horizontally and vertically on different levels, then it's pointless to have the best in the world. It's not going to serve a purpose. I hope that answers your question, Mohammed. Okay, so moving on. So when we are discussing about LMOps, we have different disciplines, but the most widely known and used one is the prompt versioning. Make sure to train people to understand that they treat discussing with an AI like discussing with a specific, let's say, machine or person in a specific language. Prompt engineering. Train your employees for different prompts to treat the prompts as a code. Then evaluate harness for your AI, where every prompt or model needs to have a set of different tools that would be evaluated by your trained employees for utilizing that type of prompt or output. Then you have model registry, approved models and versions, and of course you have drift and quality monitoring, feedback capture, and the cost and usage telemetry. Now, why we said that AI might surprise the CFO in your organization? If you have poor training, poor prompt engineering, you would have tokens that would not be used as they need to, because through proper training and prompt engineering, you would have the, let's say, optimization of your token usage, because you know your employees, what would they like to have in details, to understand what to ask, not to use the prompt 3, 2, 4, 5 times just to get an output. Then you have the multi-turn agents. Each turn resends the entire history. This is where we had the question, should I wait until 1 a.m. or buy more tokens? Then we have stuffing 30 chunks of a rack with bad chunking that per query. That would significantly increase the cost. Of course, then you have the reasoning models, thinking tokens that cost the same as output, but you don't see how much they cost in details, as Ms. Yeta asked for a Claude 4.7 and the difference between 4.7, 4.6, and 4.5. And the background agents, the ones that we need to see what they are doing, because they might spend a lot of tokens. How to manage it? First of all, hard quotas. Have an alert at 80%, throttle it or bottle it down at 100 of your predefined budget. Cheap models first. Train your people to use cheap models in order for them to understand better what they need. Use advanced models only when it's mandatory to use them, when you need something specific. Then you have, of course, checking if you have similar prompts. Avoid using similar prompts most of the time. This goes again to prompt engineering. And then we have the output length limits that would have how many tokens by use case. and per feature cost dashboard that we would have for this case. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, let's see. By the way, Naif, we have a few more minutes. We have 15 more minutes, so we will continue with that. Please bear with us for 15 more minutes. So we have Mohammed. There is also duplicate 2 or more employees doing the same task. Absolutely yes, Mohammed. This is where it comes to setting up your AI and the tools, the horizontal and vertical, what we were discussing from the beginning, where you need to have a vertical approach and which tools to be used, and where you need to have horizontal. For example, you cannot have multiple employees discussing about, let's say, the same tools when it comes to creating presentations. You only need one. Why would you have multiple that would just spend the tokens? Or when it comes to RFPs, I said, nowadays we have the contracting or the RFP department in our pocket. We just open Claude. We can analyze every document if it's trained properly, and we know if we should respond and how we should respond to that. What about other questions? Let's wait for 1 more minute. How do you set up AI as a priority in an organization? Adam, thank you so much for your question. This is the core of what we do as LEORON, where we discuss. I will open the main aspect so you understand better on what we do as LEORON and how you can set up your AI from the strategy. So we at LEORON, when it comes to capability and deploying AI, we are discussing about 3-layered approach, which is going to not just make sure that AI is part of our priority and strategy, but also be deployed. So first is that we have executive leadership and governance type of let's say, deployment of different workshops for executives, first of all, to understand the strategic implications that an organization will have when it comes to specific AI tools and AI strategy, and how, as leaders, they can think of, through this workshop, to understand how they can think of different types of tools, different type of strategy to be deployed. We have executive workshops that are spanning from several days to several months, that are programs that are let's say derived from the best universities in the world, such as we have Oxford, that is for strategic digital transformation and AI. We have Inside Business School that would help in this, as well as what is extremely important, mini programs to think of a CFO or a CTO or a CEO. Then you have the functional transformation, the process, the performance, and the outcome. This is where you have the verticals, the business units, redesigning the workflow and making sure to utilize the different tools that we have for different departments, as Ms. Yeta said from the beginning of this presentation. First of all, we have the academies, such as, let's say, AI Search, which has AI tools in finance, AI tools in procurement, AI tools in contracting, etc., etc., that would help in functional vertical transformation of the business units. And then, of course, you have the workforce enablement, which is basically organizational-wide programs on understanding the importance of AI and how to communicate with AI in details, such as prompt engineering, AI in ethics of AI, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Okay, so since we are going to the end of this webinar, we have 10 more minutes. Now we will discuss a bit about how LEORON can help and how to engage with LEORON in details. So here, when we are discussing how LEORON could help us, we said multiple times that there are different types of aspects that LEORON would help with AI. First of all, we have the single program courses. These are the trainings that are for specific departments, for specific individuals within the departments to have the specific tools necessary to do their job. As I said, we have AI in finance, AI in HR, AI in recruitment even, how to set up your AI for that specific function or for that job that you're doing. Then we have the structured journeys, learning journeys that are combination of multiple different programs that are going to be either for fresh graduates that are still just joining the organization. These are the journeys for those fresh graduates to understand the implications of AI, the implication of specific types of, let's say, tools within the ecosystem, data leakage, how not to leak data, how to use AI, etc. Then you have the level 2, which is for mid managers, to understand the tools and to deploy them, to understand each function, what tools they have, how to deploy them. And then we have the executive programs for level 3, as we said, that is about mindset, shifting the mindset to have AI focus and shifting that strategy to AI, making sure to encompass everything related to AI and to embrace what this new, let's say, modern transformation is coming for us. And the third approach that we have is the bespoke engagement, which is co-designed capability program, which is related to training needs analysis, competency assessment, and of course, outcome reporting. This is the best for large enterprises with strategic AI transformation goals, which need our help to understand each department, which tools should deploy, how to deploy them, and how to train and where to train the employees in those tools with XYZ measurable outcomes. So when we are discussing about all these three types of programs, we are not discussing about only goals that would say, oh, we would like AI fluency, but we are specifically saying, let's say, example, 80% of employees fluent in AI, 65% of employees fluent in Copilot, or Copilot fully deployed in research and development, Gamma fully deployed in marketing, etc., etc., based on what we had as outcomes from our training needs analysis and from our capability readiness of the organization. So how does that engagement look for us? We have 4 main pillars, such as diagnose, design, deliver, and demonstrate. We have a capability conversation where we map your current organization state, and then we identify the gaps and where we can jump in as LEORON to help both with training and implementation of AI. We co-design a capability journey, both horizontal and vertical, for training, as well as for deploying the AI based on the training that is going to be done before, during, and after, with on-the-job training and on-the-job coaching for your AI tools, with realistic case studies, etc. We deliver the programs, both in-house and publics, depending on the strategy that we're going with your organization. And we measure the outcomes against predefined KPIs for you to have a detailed understanding of the different types of let's say ROI that you would have from this let's say program or journey that you would go with LEORON. I believe that we are in the end, Ms. Yeta.
Yes, we have only
time, right?
5. Yes, thank you, Art, so much for the presentation and for the useful information. We are towards the end. We have some questions, time to answer your questions. We have Mohammed, who asked about the best AI model to use in finance and internal audit. What's your take on that, Art? I guess MindBridge, as I know that. Anything else that you would recommend?
There are multiple tools that would use in internal audit. First of all, we need to understand that I either would like something that is going to be fully only for that organization, what we discussed, or something that it can be purchased externally. MindBridge, for example, is what Yeta is saying is also very good agentic AI that could help in internal audit if you were to have it for single person usage. However, internal audit, and this is my personal recommendation, make sure to have modified AI that would help you in internal audit, as it has a lot of sensitive information. We can discuss in details, Mohammed, one-on-one on this for internal audit as a solution for you and your organization. But top of my mind, MindBridge, but it opens the door for a lot of discussion we need to do for this in order if you want to deploy it and train your people. Okay.
There is a question also that we were chatting actually with some of you, and I think it's worth also just mentioning it out loud. Adam asked, how do you set AI as a priority in an organization? Which is a very valuable question, because we see that as a struggle with a lot of delegates, learners, people with whom we discuss, raising awareness of first the importance of AI within an organization, and second, setting it as a priority. And when you set it as a priority, that means you set budgets for it. You set investments, you set people aside who will work on it. So it's not an easy decision for management, for your CFO, especially, as Art mentioned. So it is very important that how do you frame the message with your management. And we don't want to say we're implementing AI, because that's very vague, right? We said in the beginning, AI is everywhere nowadays. It's kind of losing its momentum. What's important is to focus on, what do we get out of it? We go to management and say we are reducing proposal turnaround by 40%. We are reducing cost on this specific operational task, for example. That's what you focus on. And then when they ask, how are you doing it? Then you bring in AI and AI models. And obviously every change requires budget. Absolutely. But that's what we recommend you use as a message when you talk with your companies.
Absolutely brilliant, Yeta, and this goes aligned with what I was thinking also. 3 key takeaways from the start to the end of this webinar. That is, AI is a capability challenge, not a technology challenge. Choose your right tool and train your people to use it. Capability lives in 3 layers, what Adam also mentioned, and leadership, functions, and workforce. They must work together, from strategy up to implementation. If they do not work together or are not trained properly in layers, then they fail. And tools change every 6 months. This is a general rule for AI. Train your people to have them ready to master whatever tool comes. If your people is trained, tools will change, they will be enhanced, etc., etc. As the general rule for IT goes, the processing power of what is it today will be double tomorrow. Same goes with the tools in AI. They will change every 6 months, but what you train, that remains. So invest in capability and in mindset shift.
Thank you, Art, so much. We have only 1 minute. If someone has a last question to ask now, feel free to drop it on the chat. If we didn't manage to answer all of your questions, we're always here to talk with you after this webinar. Obviously, this is just the beginning, the start of a connection with us. So we will be always available for you. And honestly, if today changed even one conversation you will have at your next leadership meeting, I think we've done our job. So I really hope that something will change from tomorrow with how you view AI in your companies. And the next stage of your AI journey starts with the moment you now log off. And we will be obviously privileged to walk with you on that journey. So again, please contact us. Whenever you have support questions, any doubt, we will be here for you. I would like to thank you again for joining us today, for your time, and wish you have a good day ahead. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining. I would like to finish this webinar with let's say, personal saying. So AI will not disrupt your industry on its own. The organizations that built AI capability across leadership, workforce, and functions will. This is something from my side.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
Bye everyone. Take care.
Bye.